I was originally going to post this to our Unsolved Mysteries, but it does not allow you to add text. And I feel like I need to, as this case is not particularly well known. It is an unsolved disappearance, which was presumably a kidnapping. Anthonette Cayadito was born on Christmas Day of 1976 and disappeared on April 6, 1986. The only supposed eyewitness was her 5-year-old sister. Their parents were divorced, and one night their mother Penny went out to the bar, leaving the kids with a babysitter. She came home around midnight, probably tipsy or drunk, and she and Anthonette put the younger girls, 7-year-old Sadie and 5-year-old Wendy, to bed. But she let Anthonette stay awake until around 3 a.m. At some point between 3 and 4 a.m., the girls heard knocking on the door on 2 separate occasions. The first time Anthonette and Sadie got up and shouted, "Who is there?" and Sadie said it was a man. And a woman who said, "Let us in, it's cold out here." But they didn't recognize them, so they didn't. But then a while later there was a second knock. I just want to mention before I say this that Wendy did not come forward with this information until 5 years later. When re-interviewed by the police as a 10-year-old, Wendy described how she followed Anthonette after the second knock, and this time it was 2 men, one of whom introduced himself as Uncle Joe. This time Anthonette did open the door and the 2 men abducted her. Wendy did not get a look at her face, as understandably, she was trying not to be seen. This case is kind of like the Marlena Childress case in the sense that there have been several supposed sighting of Anthonette. 1. A teacher had a student who resembled Anthonette in his class whom they couldn't find any previous school records for. When they brought this up to the police, the girl stopped attending school. Unfortunately though, it was later proven that this girl was not Anthonette Cayadito. 2. Not a sighting but a phone call from a little girl claiming to be Anthonette. Weirdly, rather than calling 911, this phone call was made to the police department in the area where Anthonette vanished. The little girl said, "I'm Anthonette Cayadito. Anthonette Cayadito. I'm in Albuquerque." The dispatcher asked, "Whereabouts in Albuquerque?" But before the girl could reply, a voice said, "Who said you could use the phone?" And then a blood-curdling scream was heard from the girl and the call abruptly disconnected. Unfortunately, in 1987 calls that were shorter than a minute and a half could not be traced. So there was no way to know for sure if this was genuine or a prank call. If I had to guess, I would say it was real, as the young girl would have had to have been a very, very good actress too. Fake sounding so terrified. I think it was Anthonette. The final supposed sighting of Anthonette was by a waitress in a restaurant. Anthonette would have been about 15 when this sighting happened. The waitress said that a girl who looked like Anthonette was in the restraint with a man and a woman. In hindsight, she realized the girl had been trying to get her attention the whole time. But this realization didn't dawn on her until after the girl had gone. When she lifted up her plate and saw a note written on a napkin which said, "Help me. Call the police." That was the last supposed sighting of Anthonette to my knowledge. Not long after that sighting, Penny and the girls went to visit a psychic. She told him Anthonette was alive and had a child. According to the psychic, Anthonette was being held hostage with threats of violence. On May 2, 1996, a Jane Doe was found in Bernalillo County. Her facial reconstruction resembles what Anthonette may have looked by that time, and she is believed to have been dead for between 2 and 10 weeks by the time her decomposed body was found. Depending on which source you look at, she was either between 14 and 19 or 14-25. This Jane Doe's cause of death was being beaten. I do not know if she had ever given birth before. This is either totally unknown or is not public knowledge. No link between Jane Doe and Anthonette has ever been made. But yet I couldn't find a single article about DNA testing being done against the DNA of this Jane Doe and the relatives of Anthonette. Anthonette also was not the only person in her family to mysteriously disappear. Sometime after Anthonette, her paternal aunt disappeared too. According to a YouTube comment I read from somebody from the area. Her auntie was found in Mexico several weeks later and is still alive and living with one of her sisters. But to this day, Anthonette has never been located.